Hi everyone, this is Dave from Geekanoids, and in this video I'm taking a look at the 4th generation Apple iPad and the Sony Xperia Tablet Z. Now when the first iPad came out, I bought it, I unboxed it, I used it, and I've upgraded to every single generation of iPad since then, right up to this very latest one with the Retina display. And when Sony announced the Xperia Tablet Z, I thought this was my chance to finally move across to a different operating system. This is running Google Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, and really give another tablet a chance. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I've been using the Xperia Tablet Z and how it compares in some ways to the iPad 4 and which one really has won me over in the last couple of weeks of using this device. So let's take a look first of all at the sort of physical differences between the two devices. So for this section of the video, you're going to have to excuse some of the reflections in these screens. Both the iPad 4 and the Xperia Tablet Z, very glossy finish with the screens turned off, of course. Now first of all, let's take a look at the sort of physical size differences between the two. You can see the Xperia Tablet Z is a lot wider and not quite as tall on the horizontal axis as the iPad 4, and that's because it's a different format. We've got a true 16:9 format screen here, which took a bit of getting used to for me, but it certainly does lend itself really nicely to viewing back movies. With regards to thickness, let's have a look at the thickness of these two devices. We can see here that the iPad 4 is a lot more tapered, so a lot sort of smoother in the hand, and the Xperia Tablet Z is a lot more angular. But that said, it is thinner, very thin indeed. The Xperia Tablet Z certainly wins out on this count. And with regards to weight, it is super light. I'm just going to do in front of the camera sort of a hands-on sort of weight test. This is a very hefty device, not very comfortable to hold for prolonged periods of time. If you're viewing back a movie, perhaps you're laying down on a sofa or a bed using it, you really need to set this down on your lap to do prolonged viewing periods. With the Xperia Tablet Z, this is super light. I put this in a case and took it out for my video tests, and I was just amazed at how I almost forgot that I was actually carrying a device. It is that light, but very well made. And with regards to build quality of the two, they're both equally as good. This one has obviously got more of a metal back on it and feels a little bit more robust, but this feels very well put together. Now, whilst we're round on the back, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cameras. Now, I'm not going to go into specifications and resolutions, just to say that the Xperia Tablet Z camera performs better than the 4th generation iPad 4 camera for both video and for photos. So the Xperia Tablet Z wins out on this front as well. Now, one thing with the iPad 4 are the controls. I think these are very well placed. They work extremely well. I like the sort of silencer lock rotation switch here, the power switch here, the top microphone and a 3.5mm audio jack placement. Not so keen on the speaker placement, and obviously the lightning connector for charging the device perfectly placed on that bottom edge there. Moving across to the Xperia Tablet Z, it's a different story. If I go round onto this side, we've got the really nice power on off switch. The volume rocker, not as nice as the volume control on the iPad 4. It's okay, it works perfectly well, but it's very thin and not very tactile to use. The actual speakers are better than the iPad 4. We've got 2 speakers on each corner, so 2 here and 2 here. Now, I'm not sure if these are actually 2 speakers or 1 speaker just with 2 outlets on each corner, but they certainly produce a much better and more defined sound than on the iPad 4. With regards to port placement, this is what I didn't like. Now, the Xperia Tablet Z is waterproof, so they've covered up all of the ports. Now, we've got one here for the micro SD card slot. I'll just pop my finger in here, and you can see here, micro SD card slot. If this was the 3G model, you'd pop a little sort of micro SIM in here, and you have to fiddle with the ports all the time. Again, on this side, we've got another port here, and you have to pick this off, and it's fiddly. They did think of putting a little receptor hole here, so you can fold this back and sort of clip it out of the way. And then we've got the charging port. But if you think you've got to do this every time you charge the device, so it's a little bit sort of finicky and fiddly. There are no docks that take advantage of these 2 little contacts here yet, but there is one coming out. But for now, charging is a little bit of a nuisance, having to remove that every time. And again, on this edge here. Sorry, I almost missed it. This is where the headphone port is. You can see the little symbol just here. And again, you have to pick this out. Goodness, there we go. And it just flaps around whilst you've got your headphones in there. So I can understand why these covers are there, because you need them for the waterproof feature, but this one is a pain in the arse because you do have to remove it to actually put your 3.5mm earphones in there, unless of course you're using wireless, which I use anyway, so not a problem for me, but for some that may be a problem. So now let's have a look at some of the real niceties of the Xperia Tablet Z. So this is my main home screen on the Xperia Tablet Z, and you can see some of the applications I've been using since getting this in to test. And I really did intend for this to replace my iPad, so I've installed all of the normal things I'd be using. Let's have a little look in some of these folders as well. So I've got Dropbox, 1Password, PayPal, Evernote and eBay, apps that I use regularly. And then in the utilities, I've got Geekbench and then some little extras that I actually downloaded to enhance my experience. I'll come on to those in a short while. And then we've got things like Google Chrome. If we launch this, you can see here, if I go into the Geekanoids website, and it's a very nice browsing experience. You might be seeing some sort of rainbow effect on the video at the moment, but certainly in sort of real life, this is absolutely crisp white. Very, very nice experience. Very sort of good scrolling. A little bit jittery though from time to time, but nice enough. But you can see there is some stutter there. Pinch to zoom seems absolutely fine. Text is nice and clear, and it just does a really nice job of web browsing. Once all the content's loading, things do become a lot smoother. And then if we tap the multitasking button, we get a sort of scrollable list up here of all of the other applications that I've been running, and we can go into Fulcrum Pro. Now this is the Twitter application, and if I go into my main timeline here, if I scroll all the way down, and you can see it updates nicely. We've got some really rich content in the Twitter app. This is one of the really nicest Twitter apps I've experienced on Google Android as well. It works extremely well and a very nice experience again. And then something that the iPad doesn't offer, if I tap the home button, I've got a choice of desktops, or a choice of launchers as they're called. So I've got Apex Launcher, Nova Launcher, or the stock Xperia Home Launcher. If I go to Xperia Home, it takes me back to the familiar Sony Xperia experience. If I go into an application again and tap home again, and this time let's tap Nova Launcher, and it switches across to something that looks like the Google Nexus 10. Again, something that the iPad will not offer. And if I go into Chrome again, and then we tap home once more, and the Apex Launcher, and you can set these to do this without that extra tap, but you can see we've got yet another experience here, and it all works very, very well. So I'm really pleased with the configurability of something like this. The iPad, you use iOS as they supply it to you, and you've not got much customization, if any, at all on the iPad. So let's go back to Xperia Home, and we'll say always this time. So I'm going to be locked into the Xperia experience now. And I want to show you a few other things that I've been really enjoying. First of all, we have got some little shortcuts here. The first one is a remote control. Now I've set this up to actually control my LG TV, and I can move this around on the screen and leave it in another position, and I can change the volume and program on my TV. I can switch across to the set-top box, my Sky Plus box, and I can control this as well. So again, something that you can't do with the iPad. And then we've got another little pop-up menu here, and this gives you some floating applications. We've got a notepad, clip manager, calculator, etc. And again, you can float these on top of anything and use them on top of another app. Really, really nice. So a good experience overall. And then we've got the addition of different sort of keyboards. Now to do this, I'm going to go into my Gmail app and into my YouTube email, and let's compose a new email. So let's pop up the new email, and we go into the compose section. Now normally you would tap out an email, so we go tap, ping out the new text. You get the idea. and we can go return like this. But I've installed something called Swipe. Now there is also SwiftKey, which is another good alternative. I opted for Swipe just to sort of get my hand in with the new way of sort of typing in text. And now instead of tapping, we can actually swipe across the letters. So we will go swipe. It says sweeping, but I can change that to swiping across. And we don't have to hit space, we just go on with the next word. New letters to type very quickly. There we go. It is as simple as that. And again, something that the iPad doesn't offer, but I've got this extra sort of customization on the Google Android platform, so I can change keyboards and change my experience, and sometimes it will be for the worse, but sometimes it will enhance the experience, like the Swipe keyboard application has. So overall, very good experience again. So let's go back to the home screen, and this is also going to be obviously a media consumption device. So let's have a look at the YouTube app. Now I'm going to go back out to here, and I'm going to actually go into my channel and into my uploads, and this shows me all of the videos that I've uploaded. So let's go to Best Camera Gadget, which was a guest video on my channel. Let's have a listen to how this performs. Let's give it a little bit of volume. Let's just skip the ad first. So I'm going to move my microphone down to just in front of the device here and put the volume up.
Some of you may know me from here on YouTube. Most of you probably don't, because Dave has a much larger subscriber base than I do. But Dave and I have challenged each other to find the best camera accessory for under 20 pounds or $30. So in turn to me doing this video, Dave does have a video over on my channel, which is linked down below, and you can go over and check that out. So we have this titled at...
So there we go, that gives you an idea of how the speakers sound, and believe me, they do sound very good indeed. Let's have a look at viewing angles as well. So we've got a decent viewing angle on here. Again, you're going to get the reflections, but a decent enough viewing angle. The left to right viewing angles are much better than the up-down viewing angles, and again, on here we've still got a visible picture. The camera's not really doing it justice. The viewing angles are much better than I experienced on the Sony Xperia Z smartphone. And with regards to colours as well, on that Sony Xperia Z smartphone, a lot of reviewers, including myself, said that the colours were very muted. On this, they've improved things a great deal. The colours on the Xperia Tablet Z are brilliant, much better than the smartphone equivalent. So in closing, I want to let you know how I've been using this on a daily basis. The actual experience on Google Android now is very nice indeed, very feature rich. All of the applications that I use on a daily basis are available on Google Android when comparing it to Apple's iPad and the iOS ecosystem. The Xperia Tablet Z, the battery life, very good indeed. Not quite on par with the iPad 4, but this has been lasting a whole day easily, and with the stamina mode, if you do find that you sleep the screen, it really does conserve battery by switching off things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth automatically for you, and that extends the battery life a great deal. Where the Xperia Tablet Z wins out is in the screen quality. The colours are very punchy, the tablet is very light, the speakers on these bottom corners are absolutely amazing. Very pleased with the media experience on the Xperia Tablet Z. So no issues with apps, with consuming media, with dealing with emails, with browsing. The negative points are really that this gets a little bit warm to the touch, whereas the iPad 4 doesn't. And also, after the first day or two of using this, I found myself sort of putting it to one side like this and reaching for the iPad again. Now, I'm not sure what draws me back to this, but I do have a few ideas. The first thing is sort of the integration between applications on here. If I've got a photo or a bit of information that I want to share on a social network, things seem to be a little bit more fluid on here, and I can sort of share that information out a lot easier because of the integration between the apps. Also, even though this is heavier, I do prefer the overall feel of the iPad. I think it's not so angular, and it just seems a little bit more elegant than the Xperia Tablet Z. But that said, the Xperia Tablet Z is a brilliant experience. I've been really enjoying it actually, and if anything was going to tempt me away from Apple iOS and things like the iPad and the iPhone, it's something like this. Brilliant screen, brilliant experience. Again, all of the apps that you're going to use are there and available. The screen is pin sharp and it's superbly light. A very nice tablet from Sony. Which one am I going to use going forwards? Well, I'm going to put this to one side for now. It hasn't quite won me over, and I'm going to continue using my iPad 4. But that's not to say that the Sony Xperia Tablet Z isn't an excellent device. It really is. It's just not quite for me at this stage. So thanks very much for watching. Please do hit like on this video. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.